There are a lot of tutorials on YouTube and other platforms on how to sound design with synthesizers. In comparison, there's very little information on how to work with raw recorded audio and with audio samples. And as I've mentioned in some of my videos before, if you're interested in video game audio or film audio, you will most likely have to work with raw audio recordings or record audio yourself. And I think for most people, once they actually start recording their own sounds, they realize that there is a big gap between the raw recordings and the final design sounds that they hear. And so it can be kind of overwhelming how you sort of get from the raw recording to the final design sound. Obviously, there are a lot of different steps like layering involved, but there are also certain techniques that you can use to enhance your raw recordings in order to prepare them for layering and further sound design. And so in this video, I'm just going to show a few techniques that I like to use to enhance my samples. And so when I record my own sounds, then there are two types of processing that I do to them. The first step is usually just denoising the sounds and maybe removing a few unnecessary parts, choosing the parts that I like, but still the sound itself stays rather raw and it still sounds like the original recording. And in the second step, what I like to do is to enhance these recordings and process them a little bit more so that whenever I want to design new sounds, I don't really have to deal with the raw recordings and can just reach to the already enhanced samples that already sound a bit bigger and cleaner. For this example, I'm using this recording of mine. And for the first step, I'm just going to use very basic plugins. Just an EQ and a compressor is the most important thing. But in this case, I'm just going to be using an EQ, a multiband compressor, a compressor, and then maybe also some saturation. And you could use a limiter at the end, but again, EQ and compression are probably the most important things that you're going to use. And so first, I'm going to EQ the sound a bit, not too much, because as I said before, this should only enhance the sound a little and don't change it completely. So I'm just cutting away some lower mids, some muddiness that I don't like in the sound, and I'm boosting the highs a little. This is going to depend on what kind of recordings you have, what mics were used, what position they were recorded in, and stuff like that. So this is not something that you have to do on every sound, it's just this very specific example. Then I like to use some multiband compression, in this case with the OTT preset, to tighten things up a bit. This is also usually going to bring out some noise in your recordings, so just be aware of that. Then maybe some saturation or distortion to just boost the overall volume of the sound and fill it out a bit. But I'm just slightly going to compress it here. So after this very basic processing, you have already kind of enhanced the sound. If we compare this to the original, currently, obviously, we are also being fooled by loudness a bit. We could actually compensate for this. So now it's about the same. Now the second thing that I like to do to enhance my sounds is to just use another EQ, and I usually check if I like the low end of a sound or if I want more low end in the sound. And again, there are plugins that can do this for you. So there are plugins that are enhancing the sub-frequencies. But in this case, what I like to do is to cut the sub area in the original sample and then just use a synthesizer to essentially create a sub bass. I'm just using Vital for this, but you can use any synthesizer you want. Essentially, we're just using this to generate a sine wave. So I'm actually just going to bounce this right away. So now this is our sub, we don't need the synth anymore for now. And now we're just gonna use fades or volume automation to make it fit with the sample down here. And now with this you have complete control over the low end. And obviously you can compare it to the original version and now the version with the sine wave as a bass. And it's very easy to control the volume of this. So let's leave it like that. And the third thing I like to do if I want to give things more punch, because this sample is kind of lacking the attack that I would like. Again, I can use the synthesizer. I'm just going to create a very short attack sound. So I'm going to just use a waveform that's a bit richer in frequencies and use an LFO on the level of this, because we just want a really short, plucky sound. Then layering white noise on this as well. We can also compress and distort it a bit. I would already bounce this to audio, and now we can use this to layer just on top of this, and we can tighten everything up here in audio. As you can hear, there's quite a big difference between the sound with and without the transient. And again, it's very easy to control the volume of this. We can also bounce all of this together now. And so now we have pretty much gotten from this sound here to this sound. Again, just adjust the volume a bit. And if you think that the attack is a bit too loud, then you can just go back and lower the volume of this. If you think the sub needs to be louder, or if it's too loud, you can just reduce or increase the volume of this one. And so it's a really easy way to just enhance your raw recordings and then just save them in your library. Whenever you want to create some new sounds, you want to create more complex sounds, then you can just pull them in and you already have a sound that sounds a bit more finished than just the raw recording.